morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for joining us today, wherever you're listening this and whatever platform you're listening this from. I do appreciate you coming. Today, I have a special guest. She is a teacher, a speaker, TV and radio host, and this young lady, God's got great things for her. It's my privilege to bring to Morning Moments Jill Sharp. Welcome to Morning Moments, Jill.
Thanks for having me, Andy. I really appreciate you having me on today. It's a blast talking to you and hearing about what God's doing in your life as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Can you tell us, if you would, please, what do you do and why do you do it?
I do lots of different things, and it's been kind of a whirlwind journey, and I am so thankful for the ways that God is moving right now. So part of what I do, I contribute to 3 different radio stations right now. One is Praise Radio out of Alberta, Canada. And so I do kind of inspirational minutes is what we call them. It's like little 1 to 2 minute devotional segments that they just kind of insert in between the songs to keep people encouraged. I also contribute to Notes Fire Radio with Paul Gibbs, and have a blast contributing kind of the same thing to them out of the United States. And then kind of my anchor station, I would call it, is Christian Mix. And that's been a blast. Christian Mix is just a couple years old. And so I was one of the original ones that helped when that station started. So that's been an honor. And so I also do the inspirational minutes for that station, but I'm a little bit more involved with Christian Mix in a lot of different capacities. So I've worked heavily with Brian Tucker. He's been such a blessing in my life. Brian has been a friend, a mentor, just such a sweet guy. And Jennifer Cotney is the assistant director, and she's just been phenomenal as well. I've made so many friends through that group and through all the connections. But not only do I do the devotional minutes, but I also contribute. There's a music show at 9 a.m. Eastern time that airs on Saturday morning, so you can grab a cup of coffee and wake up to some Jesus music to get you going for the day. And then on Fridays on Christian Mix 106, I host a show called Sharper Focus Friday. And that's personally my favorite, just because it's kind of an extended devotional show. And we talk about all kinds of good topics. And the thing that God has always had me passionate about, and I feel like my true call is helping believers to apply the Bible to their everyday life. I think that sometimes it can be hard to see how the Bible stories fit into what we're going through a lot of the time. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's the whole, focus of Sharper Focus Friday, is to help people to sharpen in and to really focus in on, not just, reading the Word of God, but understanding where God is meeting them at in their daily lives. And so that's kind of my radio stuff that I've got going. I'm on the board of directors for Christian Mix 106, and that's been fun. So I get to work with a lot of the people that are very close to me on a regular basis, and I've really enjoyed that. I do 3 devotionals to the public. So my website is jillsharpministries.com, and I have devotionals that are on there that people can just read through if they're looking for kind of a morning devotional, or whenever they're down, they can go and read through different topics. So I try to put those out occasionally so that people can just have kind of a library of stuff that they can go through for free. And then I also have worked with Eric Ziegler, Pastor Eric. He is just phenomenal, one of the nicest people you will ever meet, and contribute to CTF TV as a contributor. So I do that, and do kind of 3 videos that are kind of almost smaller snippet devotional videos. Sometimes they're a little bit longer, because I can ramble on and on. But they're a lot of fun. Typically they're, about 20 minutes to 45 minutes in length. And it's just hopping on trying to encourage people every day. And so that's kind of what I do, is I contribute to a lot of different platforms. I've got a devotional book that I'm working on behind the scenes. So I'm excited to get that out in a few months. And so that's what I'm passionate about, is helping believers to apply, what the Word of God says to their everyday life, to encourage them, to give them hope in all of those ways. And it's just been phenomenal to see what God's been doing the last few years. There's no way that all of these doors could have been opened, in our own strength. And it's been incredible to kind of see what He's been doing through all of this.
Were you raised in a Christian environment? Did you
I was, but I say this, and I was around some phenomenally sweet people, but it was not a full Bible believing church. I'll put it that way.
Mhm.
It was a church that kind of was getting into some stuff that was not scriptural.
Okay.
And so what happened was, and God met me there, like He used it. It was phenomenal. But when I hit college, my relationship with God kind of hit the next level. I was baptized in high school, and it was actually, I've got a background in music, and it was on this choir kind of a mission trip that we were doing where we did mission stuff on the side. And, we're kind of doing these choir concerts, for people while we were there. And man, God just met me, and I had that, moment. But I really feel like my walk with God deepened a lot in college, and got into prayer journaling, and we had prayer groups across campus. Got really involved with Chi Alpha Ministries, kind of helped to launch that on our college campus again. And so that's really where I would say my walk with God deepened a lot. And that's where I started reading the Bible for myself more. I truly had that salvation experience in high school. And it's not that I didn't ever read, but I didn't have that depth in my walk with God. And college is really where God kind of met me with that place. And I started, that's another reason why I'm so passionate about what I do, is when I was in college, I started reading the Bible and noticing that it did not at all align with what I had been taught and what I had believed growing up. There were bits and pieces that did. But I think that's why I'm so passionate about encouraging believers. You need to have your own walk with God. You cannot depend on your pastor, other ministers, your friends, your parents, your family. God can use those people. That's awesome. But you've got to have your own walk with God where He can talk to you, where you can discern truth, and where you can really dive in to the Word of God and to kind of keep you anchored. I talk to people a lot of the time that, the Word of God is kind of like an anchor that you drop in your life. Have you ever been out on a lake and you're like resting on the top of the water on a raft, and then you close your eyes and you try to fall asleep? Well, if you're not anchored somehow, before you know it, 30 minutes later, you'll end up on the other side of the lake. There's a slow drift that happens in our lives when we're not anchored in the Word of God sometimes. And so I think that it's so easy for us to fall into that as Christians. And so, that's one of the ways that God kind of brought me back and has, kept me, is by showing me the importance of staying anchored in that place and just letting Him love on me.
Yeah, I that's a excellent point. I think a lot of times people think, well, once I get saved or once I accepted the Lord, that's all there is to it. I'm good to go now. But if we're not continuing to die daily, and we're continuing to get in the Word and in continue prayer life, there's that drifting that does take place, and we may not go off the mark really bad, but we can. And I heard somebody, one of my interviews said, well, I just veered off a little bit, and time and distance caused me to go quite a ways away. And the enemy will do all he can just to get us to nudge off from what he has for us. That's why I think it's so important for everybody on a day-to-day basis to say, God, what do you want me to do today, and
Yep,
what's your purpose, your plan, your hope, your future for me today? And because if you're in God's will today, it's preparation for tomorrow.
absolutely. Yep. And I think another thing that, He has really reiterated to me in my life, and something that I'm passionate about, is not just raising up believers, that's important, is getting people to believe. That's the first step, but embracing a life of discipleship.
Yes.
Discipleship is following in the footsteps of Jesus and deepening in our walk with God, like we were just talking about. And we were never called to just get saved and stopped there. We were called to have lives of impact. We were called to encourage people, to love on people, and to grow in our own walk with God to become more like Jesus.
Well, I hope my viewers have, like me, have got a little taste of what your devotions and what your ministry is like, so that they could follow you more. And down below, we're going to put down some of the websites and things that you could follow Jill. And I've already had Brian Tucker on, and you go back and listen to Brian and listen to his station, and you can hear Jill a lot on that. But if you will listen to that, follow her, and keep in touch of what she's doing, but more important than that, right now today, I want you to pray for her. I want you, when this interview is over, maybe think about who I'm going to send this interview to and what I'm going to do with it. But more, before you even do that, stop and say and pray for Jill. Pray that God would continue to put her in the right place at the right time. Jill needs your prayers and you need the practice, folks. So pray that God would richly use her as she works on a day-to-day basis to find out what God's purpose, plan, and will is for her. Thank you, Jill, for being on Morning Moments.
Thank you for having me, Andy. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you. And pass this message on. And if you would, keep coming back for some more Morning Moments.